Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Carmen. If it's your first time here, welcome. Today I am going to be propagating this Golden Pothos here and also repotting the mother plant. I've had this Golden Pothos for about almost 3 years now. It was one of the first house plants that I got when I moved out of my home into an apartment setting, and it has been propagated several times and I've never repotted it, so I figured that it was a good time to do both, so stay tuned. Okay, so we're out on the balcony this afternoon to do this propagation. We always start off with disinfected pruners here. Just happen to have some alcohol wipes, so I'm cleaning those off. And then I'm going to take a good look at the plant and make sure that it doesn't have any bugs or anything like that. And really take a look at these longer trails. There's two that were growing up the side of the corner hutch. I just want to take a really good look at them to see exactly where I'm going to be making my cuts. And I know that I'm going to have quite a bit of cuttings and propagation out of this. Here I'm just cutting off the twine that was holding up the trails up to the hutch. And this plant has always given me very hardy cuttings. The stems are always very nice and thick, and the nodes are really prominent, and it always has a few aerial roots to them also. So I know that this is going to propagate well. It's never failed me. So everything's looking good, no bugs, no bad leaves. But I do know that I want to repot the mother plant. Like I said, it's been in this original pot for almost 3 years, and I noticed that the level of soil is really sunken down into the ceramic pot. So I want to take all that out, give it some fresh soil, and let it grow again up the side of the corner hutch. So I'm going to cut the first trail off, and I decided to go pretty far back because I want this to give it a good cutting and not have to deal with it again for a while. I want to get a whole new plant out of this. And the end piece there, I'm going to trim back so I don't have this longer piece on this right before this node. That piece is not going to serve me any purpose, so I'm just cutting it back. And the same with the second trail. Cutting it about 1/2 inch from the node in a 45-degree angle, and then trimming off the excess. Now I'm going to lay them out and really take a good look at them and see exactly where I'm going to be making my cuttings. And I usually like to leave 1 or 2 leaves on each cutting. So I will cut about 1/2 inch back from the node in a 45-degree angle. Right there I can see also there's it looks like there is another little aerial root starting to grow there. And any leaves that are down below, like this one here, it doesn't serve me any purpose. I want that whole node to go into water. So I cut that leaf off and leave 2 leaves with a nice node at the bottom to place inside the water. And I'm thinking I'm going to be doing 2 kinds of propagation, water and in sphagnum moss. I'm cutting off the excess here, setting it aside. Excess on that stem. I'm looking at that node there and cutting 1/2 inch below. That's going to be another cutting. Looks like another aerial root is starting there too. and cut off the excess, because nothing's going to grow on that longer stem there. But then I noticed that it had some aerial roots on it, and I thought I'm going to leave those on and maybe try these in sphagnum moss with those aerial roots on the edge there. So I'm going to start 2 different piles, one that's going to go in water and one that's going to go in sphagnum moss. And here, found the node that I want to cut at. And make my cutting. Cut off an excess leaf. And look at the aerial roots. So that, I think, is going to be another one that will go in the sphagnum moss. And then I just go through the rest of the stems and cut where I need to cut for the nodes that I want. So now I've got my water and my sphagnum moss. This sphagnum moss is moist. And I'm going to lay the ones that have the aerial roots along the stems. And I'm just going to kind of nestle them right in. I've got 4 of these cuttings, so I'm going to nestle them right into this sphagnum moss. Like I mentioned, it is moist. And then when I do bring them inside, I'm going to put them inside of a Ziploc bag and put them under the grow lights. And we'll see how they do. I'm hoping that some nice roots will come of these right through the aerial roots. They're already on there. And these shorter cuttings will be great to put in the center of the pot, whereas those longer ones I can put around the edge of the pot and make a full plant right from the get-go, probably at least in a 6-inch or 8-inch pot. And this is filtered water that I've put into this little vase. This is the vase that I typically use to propagate my pothos because it's nice and long, and the narrower top there helps keep them all in upright. And I start placing them in there, making sure that the node is underwater. Since there's quite a few of them, about 10, I'll need to just kind of move them around to make sure that they all fit inside of this propagating vase. And typically it takes about, I would say within a week, this will start getting some really nice roots. I wait for secondary roots to start forming before I move them from water to soil. I don't do an in-between medium, say from water to sphagnum moss, then to soil. I've had, very good success with just going from water to soil. So now we're moving on to repotting the mother plant, and I'm going to need to loosen the soil that's really almost attached itself to the side of the pot. So I'm just using this narrow spade to loosen up the side. I really want to be as delicate as possible on the roots. I don't want to break them. I am leaving the moss pole that it was wrapped around originally on here for the time being, just to keep the plant together and out of my way. And it was really stuck in here. Again, I don't want to yank it out. I want to have it come out in as much of a root ball as possible. But finally it starts loosening up and starts sliding out. And it wasn't super root bound, but it was starting to, kind of make a circular motion around the bottom there. The roots look in very good condition though. I did notice that there was some white residue right where the moss pole went in. So I need to get that moss pole off and take a closer look at the soil. So I loosened the trails that were attached to it with some greenery pins and slid it out. And then I noticed that the metal that was around the pole was really oxidized and rusted. So I knew I was not going to put that pole back in there. And here's where I can really take a look at the residue from all the years of watering it with regular tap water. Those are just salt minerals that have been on the top of the soil. So I'm just loosening up all the soil. The soil is dry because I purposely did not water this plant. It's definitely due for watering, but I knew I was going to be doing this project, so I didn't water it so I could work with it more easily. And the soil is really just much more attached to the roots right at the center. This plant was a bunch of cuttings that were placed together into the pot and grown into one big plant. And that's basically how growers do sell these types of plants. The same thing that I'm doing to create a new plant is what they did with this one. Just gently stroking and shaking it gets all of those clumps of soil off. I did lose a few ends of the roots there, the very ends, but nothing major. So once I rinsed off the roots and got all that calcium deposits and lime and stuff off of the roots, I put some new potting soil down at the bottom of the pot. This is the soil that I've been using lately. It is potting mix, orchid bark, perlite, and some worm castings in there. So just kind of held the roots together with my hand and just started putting soil in. I brought the soil line up to where it needed to be because, like I mentioned at the beginning, the soil had been in here so long and it kind of packed down and sunken into the pot. So I brought it back up to where it needed to be, make sure that all of the pieces were standing up straight, and next it was time to reinstall the moss pole. Now this moss pole needed some structure since I took out the metal frame around it. So I had a couple of dowels, not one long enough, so I put one on one end and the other at the other end, and that seemed to work in keeping it together. I found the greenery pins that I had used and started to wrap the 3 longest trails back around the moss pole itself. And there you have it, friends. It's basically a brand new plant. I have plenty of room still up at the top of the moss pole to wind it some more, and eventually I will have it trail up that corner hutch as it used to, but it also has some smaller growth down at the bottom that fill up the bottom of the pot. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it looks so much happier now. And I'll continue to propagate these in sphagnum moss and in the water. We'll see how they do. I'll keep you updated. If you're not already following me on Instagram, please do follow me there, and I'll keep you updated there. If you enjoyed this video, friends, please do give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that so much, and I hope that you learned a few things about how to propagate pothos. It's a beautiful plant, very hardy, and I would definitely recommend you're getting one and propagating it, because it's the best way and the cheapest way to get other new plants. Thanks so much, friends. I appreciate your visiting with me today. Have a blessed day.